Experts with Kristen Levine. On today's show, Dr. Callie Harris, Victoria Stilwell, Dr. Ernie Ward, Walter Brown.
Hi there, pet lovers. I'm Kristen Levine, and welcome to The Experts, the show where we bring together some of the brightest minds in pet care to answer the questions keeping you up at night. Now, from behavior to health to nutrition to training, our panel of experts today is here to help you out. Now, if you've got a question of your own that you'd like to see answered on the show, just videotape yourself asking it and send it to us at dogtv.com/experts. And you just might see yourself on a future episode. Now, I'm really excited about today's show as we have really put together a dream team of experts to answer your burning questions. So why don't we meet them now? All right, first up is Dr. Callie Harris. Dr. Harris is a veterinarian and a pet care advocate whose compassionate approach has made her a trusted voice for pet parents. You have a background in emergency veterinary medicine and a passion for pet nutrition. You've appeared in many major media campaigns, including as a judge on a reality show.
Yes, little known fact. Yes, I was on Pooch Perfect.
I'm gonna have to ask you about that in just a little bit. Okay, and back by popular demand is Dr. Ernie Ward, America's pet advocate. Dr. Ernie is a veterinarian, an author, a media personality known for his pioneering work in pet obesity prevention. And he's actually the founder of the Association for Pet Obesity Prevention and a passionate advocate for pet longevity. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to have you back.
Oh yeah, excited.
All right, and new to the show is one of the most recognizable dog training and behavior experts in the world, Victoria Stilwell. Welcome.
It's great to be here.
Yes, and as we all probably know, she's the star of It's Me or the Dog and also a leading advocate for positive reinforcement training. Victoria is the founder of the Victoria Stilwell Academy and a go-to expert for pet behavior. So we are thrilled to have you with us today.
Thank you.
And last but not least, and also back by popular demand, is Walter Brown. He's rounding out our panel today. The one and only Walter Brown, also known on social media as Skinny Go Live. Walter's a licensed veterinary technologist and content creator whose energetic, honest, and hilarious videos bring pet care to life. Welcome back, Walter.
Glad to be back, and thank you all for inviting me out again.
Okay, so why don't we go to our first question?
Let's do it.
It comes from Dave in Nashville.
Hey pet experts, my name is Dave and this here is my buddy Rochester and we were just wondering what essentials should we include in a pet first aid kit? Thank you very much.
Pet first aid kit. That's a great question. Dr. Ward, I'll go to you first for that one.
Yeah, and I'm really glad to have this question because this is something people overlook and forget about. And I think there's really two types of kits that you need to consider. One is what you need to have at home and one maybe for travel. For me, it's the basics, right? I mean, I want to have some gauze, some bandaging, maybe some vet wrap, which is a kind of elastic type of bandaging. You might want to have some tweezers, maybe if there's a foreign object or something you want to pick out for sure. I think I also want to make sure you always have two things, which is a soft muzzle, because again, they could be hurt, they could be painful and inadvertently bite you, and a slip leash, right? Because again, you just need to have something easy on hand that you can help restrain. There's a lot of other things I'd like to put in that kit for sure, but I mean, I think you want to start with the basics. Maybe one little thing that you might want to add too is something for diarrhea, especially for travel kits like loperamide or something.
You're reading my mind.
Yeah. So talk to your vet for those kind of things. That's kind of it.
Yeah. So I would expand upon that. I think all of that equipment and material that you mentioned is dead on perfect, right? But then I also add, if we're talking about natural disaster and needing travel kits and being prepared for the unknown, unprepared for, right? I think having something for that gut is always helpful. Keeping, your pet's medication available, a probiotic, making sure that they have just access to their food. So if you're going to have to leave very abruptly for any reason, having some sort of a travel, food bowl, water bowl, all of those are going to be really helpful.
Right. Great point. Victoria, what would you add?
Well, I wanted to go back to the point that Dr. made here because I think it's really important that every single dog from puppyhood is muzzle trained. Because at some point, if they are in a situation where they are in pain or they're uncomfortable and they might lash out, a muzzle is going to keep them safe. It's going to keep you safe. So I think that muzzles actually are advocates for dogs.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Being in emergency and critical care, I think one of the biggest things is making sure you're prepared for these emergencies. A couple of things I like to make sure I tell a lot of new pet owners. They make a lot of good information graphic or infographics on toxins. So having that on your refrigerator, having an emergency contact number on your refrigerator. If there was one substance I would say every pet owner needs in their house that can be safe is a bottle of peroxide. Our animals like to get into things, and a lot of times if we call the emergency line, they tell us, hey, let's try to induce vomiting on some things. And peroxide is your safest product to give versus doing a lot of other things. So for me, being prepared as far as emergency contact, your insurance, the different substances, knowing what are toxins. And also, we also want to think about having things in our car for accidents that may happen on the road. For instance, animals maybe get hit by a car, like Dr. Ward said, making sure you have a muzzle, a gauze muzzle, just to kind of help get these animals out of that situation and into a safer place. So just knowing some of those different emergency situations, they have a lot of different classes that you can take or whatnot. But again, being prepared is the best thing for emergencies.
And one other quick add, maybe because, I've seen so many ocular emergencies, is having like a pet safe eye wash, a saline rinse, because too often you're on the phone and they're desperate and it's like, if we could just flush it, that might help.
Good point. And Dr. Callie, and just one follow-up question to that is, we're prepared with a first aid kit, but when do we know that it's something that we can treat or manage versus time to call the veterinarian?
So I always say having a good relationship with your veterinarian is going to be key. Whether you're able to get in and see them personally or be able to get, a call in, getting connected with the veterinary technologist, knowing your local emergency or urgent care facility. So I'm always going to lead with that. But then if you are in a scenario where, time is of the essence, I think if it ever feels like, okay, I need to stop bleeding, right? I need to try to open an airway, but I'm very cautious about that. Like there are certain first aid or CPR classes that you can take for pet parents to at least be educated in that experience. But I think the best is just being as close to a vet as possible and just getting there.
And we can talk you through a lot of these emergencies. So we can help you.
Exactly.
One thing that I also have in my emergency kit is a roll of paper towels and an enzyme cleaner and a plastic bag in case my dog or kitty has an accident on the road, because you don't want to be stuck in the car with that accident, right? Before we go to the next question, Dr. Ward, I just wanted to ask you about the book that you recently wrote, The Clean Pet Food Revolution. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the Clean Pet Food Revolution was really born out of trying to understand the impact of pet food production on climate change. And so that was kind of what's the impetus for the book. And I wound up, kind of investigating and leading on a lot of research. We interviewed, I think about 20 different researchers around the country just to talk about the different impacts, but more importantly, how we as pet parents can provide a more sustainable diet for our own pets. And so, again, it's great. A lot of the major pet food companies are doing amazing work, to try to reduce their carbon footprint. And so that was kind of the genesis of it. It was a different exploration other than obesity and some of the other things I've written to really say, hey, how are we impacting our planet and what can we do better?
Great. Okay. Thank you for that. All right, let's get to our next question. This one comes from Maggie in Indiana.
My question is how to get my deaf 10-month-old pit bull puppy to stop nipping for attention. She gets lots of exercise, she has chews and toys and playtime. What else can we do to get her to stop nipping?
Well, I think I have to go to Victoria Stillwell first on this question.
There's an expert here for that.
She's having a trouble with her deaf pit bull puppy nipping.
Well, I think it's normal puppyhood, isn't it? So a lot of puppies will nip, and they'll nip mostly through play. But also it's discovery, because they discover a lot of the world with their mouths as well. But I think the other added for this dog is because this dog is deaf. And so this dog might not be getting what it really needs. And so it's nipping to get it. So that's what I would ask is what does this puppy really need? What does this puppy really want? And then I teach puppies how to get attention in different ways. And so I would teach this puppy the touch cue, which is instead of nipping, the pup will come up and touch the hand with a closed mouth.
Okay.
So it gives the pup something to do. It teaches the pup to interact with a closed mouth rather than an open mouth. And also to make sure that that puppy has not too much enrichment, but a lot of different toys that it can chew on, understanding that puppies have different preferences.
Excellent. Great advice. Walter, Can you add to that?
Again, Victoria is our expert here, so I don't think I can follow up. I think the biggest thing that I like to tell a lot of pet owners, with the dogs that are deaf or whatnot, a lot of times these dogs are either adopted or inherited from someone, right?
Sure.
And we feel so compassionate to adopt these dogs, but I always challenge these owners, make sure you talk to your veterinarian about the care it takes for these dogs that are deaf or whatnot. And there are also dogs or breeds that are predisposed at a young age that can have hearing loss. Dalmatians, we used to see them all the time. So going in, even if you're going to a breeder to, buy a Dalmatian, you may want to have that question like, is there death in this line, or has it had a hearing exam? So just knowing predisposed conditions on different breeds and making sure you get the proper information before you obtain or adopt a deaf dog is vital to those owners who decide to get into those situations.
Absolutely, and maybe even talking with other pet parents of deaf pets would also be really helpful too. What could you add to that, Dr. Callie?
Well, same thing. I mean, I feel like Victoria is like the perfect expert, the perfect person to answer this question. But from a vet's perspective, I think this is why we also lead with these conversations of working with a dog trainer is so important. It goes beyond just what we're going to discuss in our exam room. So I, as a veterinarian, have worked with a dog trainer for my own pets. And so I would just continue to drive that home.
Absolutely.
Yeah, again, I don't have anything to add from the behavior standpoint. I would say there's a tremendous amount of hope with these cases. I think too often people give up on physical disabilities in animals too early. And so I've encountered countless deaf dogs that have done amazing and had great lives. And so I think that, yeah, sure, it's going to be a little more difficult and challenging at the beginning, but it's going to end really, really well. And again, of all the senses, if you're going to lose it as a dog, let's lose that one because, they see the world through smell and then sight. So, sound is kind of...
That's very true.
And we can communicate a lot with deaf dogs using obviously hand signals, but using vibrations as well. And for example, if you think about the deaf dog's world, change happens immediately. They don't hear when somebody's coming up behind them. Yeah. So then I teach different signals to tell them something's coming up behind you.
That's great. Otherwise they get startled.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the world of contrasts for deaf dogs, very, very quick.
I just want to follow up to Maggie's question. She also said that he was a puppy. Yes. So when is the best time? If you're adopting a puppy, when is the best time to engage with a dog trainer?
Right from the word go, like you go see your vet, then you get, I always believe in building a support team. And I really love what you say because I think it's imperative for trainers and behaviorists to have a great relationship with their veterinarian. 100%. Everything I do, if there's a behavior issue, anything I do, have you had a vet check? Have you been to see your veterinarian?
And we do it the other way too.
Right.
Have you worked with a trainer yet?
Right. So. Right. This is your dog's life. You're raising your dog, so give them the best chance.
Exactly. And I did want to follow up with you, Victoria, because you are, through Victoria Stilwell Academy, you're training the future dog trainers of the world. So can you talk to us about what key principles you emphasize to your students?
Definitely. Well, this safety is the most important for when we think about dogs and we think about training them, when we think, what do they need? So the number one thing is dogs need to feel safe and be safe, right? And then when we understand what their needs are, then we can start a training plan to help them cope in this crazy domestic world that they live in. Yeah. And that's what we teach our students. But we teach our students that really try and look at the world from the dog's point of view. Because when you do, it opens up a whole new world to you. And that makes your training and teaching easier.
Yeah. All right, we're going to get to our next question now. This one comes from Jenny in Hoboken.
Hi, this is Jenny. This is Ralphie, a new addition to our family. We're looking to add a dog, and we want to know the best time to do that, and if there's any tips or tricks, and to introduce one or two of them.
Okay.
A lot to say.
Walter, you want to jump on that one?
It sounds like another Victoria. Number one,
you take it.
it's funny. That's a funny story, though. I became a lot of people follow me on social media and know I have this new squish face cat that I just love to death. And my wife, who's never had a cat before, just been a dog person, I think that was that learning curve for us. Yes. So introducing her biggest thing is she wanted the cat to interact really fast with the dogs, and we have a corgi and a little pitty, and they are riots. But the cat was probably upstairs for about 30 days before finally coming down and being comfortable. And that's my biggest thing, is that you don't want to try to just introduce the cat and the dog, right? Cats are a little bit different. You have to Victoria may agree with me, they're on their own time. You kind of give them that time to acclimate. Now we can't keep the cat from around the entire house, right? And now she sleeps with the dogs, she fights with the dogs, but it's more of a letting cats kind of do their thing before you just try to introduce them like you would do 2 dogs. But that was my biggest experience as far as being a new cat owner. So I totally understand her deal, but love my cat though. I got more than my dog.
Victoria, what would you add to that?
Well, I love what you said there because, yes, you got to give the cat time. The cat will tell you. And I always say that who are the best teachers? It's not us. It's our pets, right?
Absolutely.
So the cat tells you. I always say, give as many escape routes as possible for the cat and as many high places for the cat to get to.
That is awesome. And just kind of piggyback off that funny story. The cat figured out upstairs was her territory now, and my wife rarely goes upstairs. So anytime my wife goes upstairs, my cat will beat her up to the stairs, stand at the banister, and like, and then you hear my wife, Quinn, and I'm like, yes. So yeah, it's all about giving time with the kitty, right? You just got to give them their time, their space, and they usually like take over your whole house. So.
Absolutely. Dr. Ward.
Yeah, you know, I've always taught clients to kind of approach, and really this goes both ways, dogs and cats, but we go smell, sight, touch. And so the first thing we try to do, especially in this situation, is scent swapping. So that's your 30 days upstairs.
Yeah.
But, you know, maybe taking a cloth and rubbing it on the cat or the dog and swapping it out and getting them used to it. And then, of course, you know, you go to the site, which is in a controlled environment, you know, where you let them see each other, but they're not quite touching yet. So that would be your level 2. And then finally would be the touch or the direct interactions under supervision. Yeah, you know, and I would say I love the fact that all of us are emphasizing patience, because I think, you know, your wife wants to rush it. We all want to rush it, but if you'll just let nature kind of take its course in some of these instances, they'll work it out. And one other thing too that she asked Victoria, I'd love to get your opinion on. You know, she said, when should you do this? I think people want a magic age, and I don't really know that there is a
magic age.
Yeah.
I don't.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is there a magic age?
Yeah, so just to add, I mean, just in the continued build to all of this really great information is that also every pet is going to be different. Every household is going to be different. The environment is going to be different. And what I also will share with my clientele or family, you know, friends, whomever that wants to introduce a new pet is just also promoting somewhat of a Zen environment too. I love providing like the escape routes, but then also there are tools in our toolkit to help support a more happier home. So I love utilizing pheromones. I love utilizing probiotics that can be supportive to help, you know, reduce stress on the gut that can also send some signaling to the brain. So there are other measures that can be taken to encourage and to ensure that experience is as happy as possible.
I was going to ask, does nutrition kind of play a part?
Oh, you know, I'm always going to bring nutrition into it.
And the pheromones might help your wife too. So you know, it's worth a shot. But, you know,
Some jewelry. Maybe some jewelry too.
Oh, jewelry does work. I have personal experience with that. That's right.
So Walter, before we go to our last question, for those of us who follow you on Skinny Go Live, you're on TikTok, you're on Instagram. First of all, can you tell me how much of your audience is people that are in veterinary medicine versus pet parents?
You know what? This is a very interesting question. It is actually a 50-50 split. One thing that I realized when I started doing a lot of social media content, my content started with Greek letter organizations, fraternities, and sororities. I used to do a lot of comedy in that area. And then I went over I was official comedian for the University of Georgia football team. And then I kind of got over to the vet med world.
Wow.
So it was funny because everyone stayed following. And the one thing that I realized when I switched over to the vet med, all 3 of those different entities, everybody has animals.
Yeah.
Everybody has pets, so they stayed engaged. So whether it was my Bulldog Nation or everybody stayed engaged because everyone has animals. So I think that was the big caveat of my following is just like, I didn't realize that the animals would bring everybody together. But it's amazing to get messages from each area about, hey, can I ask you a quick question about my dog, or do you have this information? Almost like DOGTV within my social media.
If you're not already following Walter, follow him at Skinny Go Live, right?
Got it.
Okay, cool.
Hey, I'm Warner, and this is Stagger Lee. And I was just kind of curious, can dogs develop a preference in music, a taste in music, so to speak? Is there a reason why he would act a certain way when one band's playing and act a completely different way when something else is playing?
All right. Well, Dr. Ward, why don't you take it first then?
Well, I think it's interesting because, artistic preferences, that's a domain that none of us can understand. And so I don't know that a dog would have a particular preference for a style of music. What I do think they like or dislike are volumes, cadence, or beats, right? So I do think that there are some scant studies, and I'm not going to say these are the most elegantly designed research studies I've ever seen, but, they would say, do they like classical music or slow jazz or whatever? And, I'd say it's all over the board. I know that reggae music.
Reggae music is bound to calm dogs.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but personal preference, again, I would say if you're playing it on your radio a lot, they're probably going to get used to it. Right. And then just be mindful of the volume because, again, they have much more sensitive ears than we do.
Sure. Yeah. Victoria?
Dogs dog brains, like human brains, they like to seek patterns in music and they can recognize little sections of music. So there have been studies in that have shown that. But that's why I would say use a pattern that your dog likes. Now, there are some dogs that like heavy metal, right? And there are some dogs to calm that just like a very calming pattern of music, like classical music.
Right.
But there's also special music out there that's specially designed for dogs, for pets, for cats, and for dogs. Yep. And that music that sometimes you can see on DOGTV is really designed to help calm dogs down. Right. And that's because the music is spaced out, because the notes are spaced out. Sometimes the high frequencies are taken out, so it's mid to low frequencies, and that can really help calm that dog's central nervous system.
That's absolutely. To the point, like you guys made all the points, and again, to the funny parts of things. There was a song came out recently where the guy screams mustard, right? He screams out. I did that so much, right? That my little corgi, she goes, oh, when I do the mustard, right? So it's the fact that I'm like, mustard, and she's, so they recognize patterns of different things. Yes. My little my little pitty before I got married, a big hip hop fan, but I would get myself jazzed up before going to the gym in the morning, but he always knew that after the gym, I would take him for a walk. Yeah. So he would be excited. I would blast my music in the morning. He'd be like, 1 hour, you'll be back for my walk. So they figure out these patterns of different things. So as far as the music, whether they like it or not, they definitely figure out what they mean to you and for them.
I was going to add, Walter, you're like reading my mind because I think there has to be somewhat of like a human bond impact to this too. Right. So if my pets are seeing me excited, I'm a theater kid, okay? I like musicals, right? And so like if I'm belting out
music.
Yes, Broadway music, Hamilton specific. My dogs absolutely get excited because mommy's dancing around, having a good time, singing off key, I will add. But they, recognize that as playtime. So I do feel like there is a bond, component to it that comes with it as well.
And it makes you like, and it's funny because it's like, I don't feel like walking you right now, but I played the music and I did the thing. Yes. I can't dissociate that, right? Like, I got to get up and I got to go walk my dog, right? So it makes you responsible for your pet as well.
And again, from an evolutionary biology standpoint, these pathways are preserved. I mean, we have an emotional connection to music, to sound, to rhythm, to patterns. And so I just don't, there's no way, I don't believe that dogs and cats feel the same because these pathways preserved over eons of millennia. And so for me, it's like, of course, your dog may love your bluegrass music or whatever.
Yes.
Well, believe it or not, we are finished with our questions for today. What a really great conversation, and a big thank you to our amazing panel today. So, if you would like to have your question answered right here on The Experts, don't forget you can do that. You just have to record you asking the question and send it to us at dogtv.com/experts. So until next time, I'm Kristen Levine, and this has been The Experts, your go-to for trusted advice from the people who know pets best.